Today we'll be continuing our retrograde planet series. Today we'll be talking about Mars retrograde, what it means to have Mars retrograde in the natal chart, as well as what it means for everybody during a Mars retrograde transit. So first off, let's talk about what Mars means in the birth chart. It rules over your physical movements. It rules over your motivation and how you get things going in life, how you go after what you want, your desires. It rules over anger, how you express that anger, what gets you going, what really pushes you and motivates you. It rules your sexual desires as well as our passions. That can be physical passions as well as just passions in life. Again, just like what motivates us and what gets us going. And it also shows us how we assert ourselves, the sign that it's in, shows the way we go about getting what we want, and without really thinking about others too much. It's just pure ego, pure self-motivated drive. Side note, I'm gonna try making my videos a little bit shorter, just because I'm not sure how long each person tends to really watch my videos, because the ones that I tend to do are usually pretty long. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to stick to shorter, smaller bite-sized content. So getting into Mars retrograde and what it really means. During this time, we are retracing our footsteps. Because Mars literally rules our physical movements, it can rule over the physical body, and it's just a very physical planet, because not only does it rule like our drives, like our motivation, that can be something psychological, right? But when we are motivated to do something and when we have that drive, a lot of times we can literally just feel it in our body, and it is something that it's viscerally felt. We can almost see our Mars sign really just play out in our physical movements because of that. And so during Mars retrograde, where it's the backward movement of the planet, right? So we're looking over our previous course of action. We're looking at what we've tried in the past and seeing if it has worked before. With Mars, we're asking ourselves to reconsider our plan of action, how it is we are gonna try and go about what it is that we want. We're also considering what it is that we want, like what is the very thing that I am after and what is motivating me. We're questioning those things and those factors that play in when it comes to decision making. During Mars retrograde, we're looking at what went wrong in the past. Again, retrograde is just all about slowing down and looking back, looking at the past, and also just taking the time to think harder and take our time a lot more. And with Mars, it's so hard to slow down our impulses, because it's the planet of swiftness and just taking action and being impulsive and spontaneity, and it doesn't really do well in retrograde motion. I mean, none of the planets really are comfortable doing going in retrograde motion at all, but especially Mars, just because it is all about taking action and going forward and being direct and going directly after what you want. During Mars retrograde, our plans tend to change, our impulses tend to change, and what usually inspires and motivates us tends to change during this time, because we're going over what has previously motivated us, and maybe it changes into something different this time, and we reassess why we want certain things in life. During this time, or especially in the natal chart in Mars retrograde, we can have a tendency to hold in our anger because it's not being directly outwardly expressed, so it is kept inside. It's just repressed and held back because there is a hesitance that comes with the retrograde motion. With any of the planets, their natural essence and their natural energy is not so much naturally expressed outwardly as it should be. It is held inward, and it's all about like focusing inward that energy. So when we have repressed impulses when it comes to Mars retrograde, we will tend to have quick outbursts. And I could see a lot of Mars retrograde natives, people who have this natally in their chart, as having sort of a slow buildup of anger. Not necessarily people who just express their anger as whenever and however they want, because again, they're just kind of like sitting with that anger and like letting it simmer, and they don't feel like there's always a healthy outlet for that anger, and so it just gets held inside, and it's just something that they constantly think about and go over and over and over, instead of like just letting it out and letting other people know that that's how they feel about something, that they're upset about something. During Mars retrograde also, we may regret following certain drives and impulses. It can lead to a lot of regret, as with any of the other retrograde planets, because it's not really a time to go after what we want right when we feel like it. Like, now is the time to just rein in those impulses, those crazy Mars drives, those impulses. So even just looking at the word regret, right? It has the prefix re in it. And also retrograde also has the prefix of re. So I just thought it was interesting that during retrograde season of any other planet, if we're not careful and if we're not slowing down, it will lead to regret. We can also become really lethargic and not so much motivated as we usually are. We might find it a little bit harder than usual to stand up for ourselves and really get what we want. We might feel a lack of confidence. Mars retrograde natives might tend to feel a lack of confidence and just being able to stick up for themselves and really know what it is that they want. It can also be about having difficulties with sexual expression and knowing what you want, like physically, knowing what turns you on, and sometimes those things might change during Mars retrograde season. Since Mars also rules over physical activity and the physical body, we might have trouble staying active and getting ourselves moving, along with that psychological motivation that's hard to get up and going during retrograde Mars. We might also find our physical bodies hard to get moving as well. We're lacking that fire and that physical energy to go up, literally get up and get what we want. So again, it's interesting to consider Mars going in a backwards motion in retrograde season, just because it is such a speedy planet, and it's like the athlete or the competitor in the solar system. I think it can be one of the most difficult periods for any retrograde planet. Can be one of the most difficult planets to experience retrograde, either by transit or by having it in your natal chart, because it can be really tricky to navigate Mars retrograde. In my personal opinion, it is one of the hardest. It's one of the hardest transits to experience. So you really, during Mars retrograde, you really want to be careful, and we really want to slow down, because it's an action-fueled planet, and it's just all about following your impulses, following your selfish motivations, and that can really get you into trouble if you're not really thinking about it and really going inward and seeing what is motivating you, and why you really want what it is that you want, and why it is that you're taking these actions. Oftentimes during just considering the essence of Mars energetically, it's not about thinking about things, it's not about planning or being altruistic. Really, it's just basic free will and basic drives. It's just very plain and simple like that, and just following those passions, those very pure and raw passions, and without considering other people or considering the why behind it, the strategy behind it, or the analytics behind your motivations. It can lead you into tricky situations. So that's something you really want to think about during Mars retrograde. And if you have this natally, that's also something to consider in your day-to-day life. You might actually find it easier to be motivated and to stand up for yourself during a Mars retrograde transit. We just recently got out of Mars retrograde in Aries in 2020, so I thought that was interesting that this video kind of lines up with that. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it has shed some light on this fiery, impulsive planet and how it behaves when it's forced to go backwards. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have anything to add to this conversation, please let me know so we can all learn from each other. And be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about astrology. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.